Hello and welcome to this video tutorial for the Starstruck mini kit. My name is Rowena and I am the founder of Reel and Hammer, and I'm just going to be talking you through how to do this today alongside the instruction sheet. Okay, so let's get started. So the whole premise of doing these is the idea that we can make circles from beads. And how we do that is we thread on our beads and then we continue round and through the first beads again. So we're still going in this either clockwise or anti-clockwise direction. And that brings beads round into circles. So you'll see that we do it obviously to start off the kit, and then we're going to be doing it to emphasize the points. So we've got a circle that we're making here, and then we've got a further circle that we're making down here. So long as you can do that, which you totally can, you'll be absolutely fine. Okay, so the beads that we're using in these kits, we've got bugle beads, which are the long tubular beads, beads A and beads C. And then we've got seed beads. Now these are size 11 seed beads. Those are your B beads. And then we've got some little 3mm crystal bicones that we're using just to emphasize the points and make these stars sparkle. The bugle beads are in two different sizes. Try not to get them mixed up. They should be different colors, so you should that should help you out here. These ones are a size 2 bugle bead. The A beads are a size 2 bugle bead, and they're about 3 to 4mm long. The C beads are a size 3 bugle bead. They're more like 6mm long, so they're just that bit longer. So we're going to be using these ones to make the initial circle, and then these ones in the points to give our stars some size to them. Okay, so I've zoomed in a wee bit now just so that you can kind of see a bit more clearly what we're going to be doing. So I've got my thread cut. You need about 1 meter of thread for this, which is like approximately the distance from the edges of your fingertips to your shoulder on the other side. So from your right hand to your left shoulder. And we're just going to go ahead and thread that needle. If you do have trouble doing this, we have a YouTube video all on how to thread needles, because let me tell you, honestly, not as easy as it looks. Unless you've seen the video, in which case it is definitely as easy as it looks. Okay, so the key to making these stars look really good is to always pull tight. You want your beading to be as tight as possible, and then that way your stars are going to maintain their shape and they're going to last for years and years to come. Okay, so we're going to start by threading on one A bead and then a B bead, and we're going to do this 5 times in total so that we've got 10 beads on our needle. So let's have a quick look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I don't know if you saw me doing that there. Instead of picking up the beads and putting them on the needle, if you poke your needle into the mat and then put the beads on that way, it just makes things a lot quicker for you. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on there. Perfect. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pull them down almost to the end, but not quite. So just watch your tail end of your thread coming through. You don't want to just pull them off again. And then we're going to go through all of the beads again in the same direction. So we're going in where the tail thread comes out. The tail thread is just the thread that doesn't have the needle on. And we're going to go all the way along and through these beads like this. Okay, and this will bring them round into a little circle once we pull the threads tight. So you want to pull the tail end and the working end towards each other, and that is going to pull these nice and tight into a circle. Now, we're going to tie these off just now, just so that we know that that initial circle is going to stay nice and tight. And the way we're going to do that is using an overhand knot, which is the same knot that you would use to start tying your shoelaces. So if we imagine that the bead circle that we've got here is our shoe, and then we're just going to take one end and we've made a little loop and we've passed one thread through the loop, and we're going to pull that nice and tight like that. There we go. And we're just going to do that one more time, just so that we know that this is nice and secure and it's not going to be going anywhere. So here we go. Let's tie that nice and tight as well. Perfect. Great. Fantastic. Halfway there. Basically done. Okay. So now we're going to come out through one of our B beads. Just this little guy just here. Okay. And now we're going to start making the first point. And so for the first point, we need to put on one C bead. And 1, 2, 3, 4 of your B beads. Okay. And then we're going to make a little circle on top of here. So we're going to go through the first bee bead again. Let's pull that out nice and, nice and tight. So this is where things like tension are super important, because if you see, I'm making the circle, but it's quite a long way from where it needs to be down here. So we're just gonna gently pull this bead here right back down, and then I'm gonna put my finger here and pull tight, and then that's gonna keep that bead right where I want it at the top of this. You're totally not gonna snap your thread. You're not gonna break your beads. Like, you can be as rough as you want with it, okay? And then we're gonna thread on another C bead and go through the next B bead in the original circle. Whoops, and I've just pulled my needle off. Okay, so can you see we've got the first ever so slightly wonky point of our star done. Okay, I'm just gonna rethread my needle here. Now it's a good idea when you have your needle threaded just to have quite a bit of tail, especially at the moment because we've got a lot of thread through, so that you don't end up pulling the needle off just like I did there. Okay, so we're going to repeat what we did just then another 4 times to give our star 5 points. So I've threaded on a C, and 4 B beads, and I'm going to go through this first B bead just here, holding everything nice and tight and in place with my finger. Add another C bead and through the B bead in the initial circle. Okay, so we're going to do this another 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. My bead mat keeps slipping out of the camera shot. There we go. So let's pull that round. Oops. That often can happen as well, is that your thread will get caught on another part of the bead work. Just be very gentle and very slow. There's no rush to do this. And unhook it and then pull nice and tight so that it doesn't happen again. So another C bead, and we're going to go back through the B bead in the initial circle, just like this. Perfect. Okay. We're just going to keep doing this until we've got our 5 points, which is going to come together super quick. Okay. There we go. And then the final point on this row, 2, 3, 4. Pull it around into a circle. Add this C bead on, and we're going to go through this initial B bead again. And that is us probably about halfway through. Now, we're pulling the thread tight as we go, but it is still going to look a little wonky. Now, don't worry, we're going to add more beads to it, and it's going to become less wonky. Okay, so we're coming out of this B bead here in the initial circle, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add on a B bead and another C bead, and this is where we do the outside of the stars. And we're going to go through this side bead. Can you see that side bead there in the circle? So we're going through that side bead just there. And now this is going to add the outside of the points and add it on. And then we're going to go through this, again, this top bead in the circle. And now we're going to make our second circle, which is ultimately going to be our point. And for this, we need to add on 1 B bead, 1 D bead, 1 B bead, and then continue through the point of the previous circle like that. Pull it nice and tight so that this is all sitting tight. So I hadn't got this bit here pulled tight, so I've just loosened out my circle, and then I'm going to pull that nice and tight, and then I'm going to tighten this circle again. Perfect. Okay, and now we're essentially just going to kind of continue that pattern round. So we're going through the side bead in the first circle point, and then we're going to add a C and a B this time, and go through this B bead here in the original circle. So let's pull that. Oops, watch your tail thread doesn't get involved. It always does. Pull that nice and tight. Perfect. Okay, so that's the first outside point done. And we're going to go, what we're going to do now is we're going to go back up through that last bee bead that we added. So we're going to do exactly the same thing again, but instead of adding a new bee bead like we did here, we're going to use the bee bead that's already there. And then that should just anchor it nicely to the star. Can you see how that's already lying flatter on this side than it is here, because we've now got the 2 threads going through it. Okay, so now we need to add a C bead. And we're going to go up through the side bead in the first circle point, and then the top bead in that first circle point, and then we're going to add another circle point on top. So we're going to do a B bead, a D bead, and a B bead through that point just there, nice and tight, making sure that this bit here is tight as well, through this side bead here, and then a C bead, a B bead, and through the B bead in the original circle. So it's all done exactly the same way as in the diagrams, with the brief instructions that you've also got printed out, just in case you want to refer to them kind of in a wee bit more detail. Okay, so we're going to pull that nice and tight, and that's our second point done. C bead, oh no, and then we go straight through here, so through the side bead, and then through this top bead of the circle point, and then B bead, D bead, B bead, pull you guys back in. My bead mat tends to travel. Back through this top point bead just here. There we go. Down the side bead just there. Oh, see. So I'm just going to gently lift that loop off there and then tighten it and pull it nice and tight there. C bead, B bead, back through the initial, the B bead in the original circle, and then back up through that bead there. Now this bit here, the tension always goes a bit funny because you've kind of pulled it out of place of where we just put it, but we're just going to pull it nice and tight, and that'll pull everything back into shape again. Okay, 2 more to go. C bead up through this side bit just here. So as you can see, these stars are coming together super, super quickly, and you've got enough in your bead packs to make 4 with 2 bead mats and 2 needles. So the idea is, obviously, restrictions allowing, you could have a lovely little craft evening with one of your friends or a family member. But if you do want to make more of these, then all you need are size 2 bugles, size 3 bugles, size 11 seed beads, and 3mm crystals. Now you can get these from most bead shops online, or if you're lucky enough to have a bead shop in your local area, yeah, you can pop in and get them from there. You won't be able to obviously buy them in such a small quantity as you've got just here, but if you're going to be making quite a lot to decorate your house with, then that's probably a good thing. Yeah, and these just make the perfect little complement. You know, you can pop them on a gift bag, you know, as a kind of almost like a gift tag. If you were making someone a Christmas cake or something like that, decorate it with a wee ribbon and one of these stars. If you got quite a few of the stars and hung them together, they'd look lovely, almost like a little garland or a little curtain of stars. The only thing, unfortunately, that you're not allowed to do is sell these on, just because obviously this design is copyrighted to Reel and Hammer, and so you are not allowed to sell these on, unfortunately. Okay, so we've just got to do our last one here now. So we're going to add the C bead on, and then we're going to go through this B bead that's kind of sticking up and in the way just because it's not been anchored down by another thread. So we're going to go through that B bead there. That was the first B bead we added on in this round. And then again through the B bead in the original circle. Now this B bead might be getting a bit tight just because it has got the knot in it, but this is the last time we're going through it, so it should be totally fine. So we're just going to pull that out there, make sure the thread's not getting twisted as we pull, and there we go. So that's basically all you need to do, but we're just going to do one more time round, and that time we're just going to reinforce the star. So what we're going to do is we're going to come out of the first B bead that we'd added last time, and then we're going to go all around the edge. So we're going to go through the C beads, and then we're going to go through the 2 side beads and anchor those together through the point, through the 2 side beads, through the C bead, ignore the B beads, and through the next C bead along. So this is just going to take everything that we've done and just kind of tighten the edges of it a wee bit and pull it all together. So we've done the 2 side beads there, gone through the top, we're going through these 2 side beads here, and the C bead, not the B bead in between the 2 C beads. And then we're going to go up through here. So do you see how that's kind of pulled it together at the point here, and at these beads here, they're now nice and closely sitting together. So we're going to just do this the whole way around, keeping our tension nice and tight as we go. 90% of the time when people have problems and they call me up, it's because they're not pulling tight enough. You're not going to be able to snap this thread, honestly. Well, I've made that sound a bit like a challenge now. I'm sure you could, but chances are you're not going to. I don't think ever been halfway through something and pulled the tension too tight that it snapped my beads. Okay, so we're just continuing around, going through the side beads and the C beads until we get, oops. So watch your loop. Let's just loosen that up and then pull that nice and tight. There we go, like that. Okay, so here we go. And then this is just going to make the whole thing hold its shape just that bit better. So we can tell where we started because we've still got the tail thread coming out of the original circle. So I've got a wee bit more to do. I'm just going to do this. These 2 side beads here, down through the point, through the C beads, up, pull that nice and tight. And then, there we go. And that is that. Okay, fantastic. I've lost some of my beads off the edge of my mat, but that's not really an issue. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to tie off our thread and then we're done. So this tail end here, we double knotted it to start with, so that one is totally fine for us to just snip. So what I like to do is I like to pull the thread tight, use one finger, and then that way you can get really close into the knot. Now at this point, if you want, you can dab either just a wee bit of glue, or I tell you what works really well is clear nail polish just on this knot here, and that will stop it from kind of unraveling at all, but it should be totally fine just as it is. For this working thread here, what we're going to do is we're going to tie a knot around one of the threads that's already here, and then that way that'll anchor it to the piece and finish it off nicely. So I'm going to put my needle through, so I'm going through in between these 2 C beads here, 2 C beads there, and then I've got a wee loop just left here because I've not pulled it all the way through, and I'm just going to take my needle through that loop. And can you see how this is forming a knot? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it down so that it's sitting just in this inside point here in this corner. So I'm going to pull it nice and tight under pressure, and there we go. So that's one knot. So we always double knot, just because why do something once when you can do it twice? So we're going through the gap between the 2 C beads. I've made a loop, I've gone back through my loop, and I'm pulling that nice and tight just there. And now what you can do to kind of bury this knot further is if you go through the B bead just next to it and pull nice and tight, and what that will do is that will shift the knot, so the knot is now sitting kind of in here, and then we're going to just chop again. So I'm pulling it nice and tight and chop, and that's it done. Fantastic. Okay, so if you do want to put a wee bit of glue on, just pop it on just there. Okay, so the last thing to do is to attach the clear thread monofilament that you're going to be using to hang the star. Now, you can totally tie this in just a very little loop and then attach a ribbon down. I really like the clear thread because if you put it in a window or against a tree or anything like that, you can't see the thread and it looks like the stars are just floating. So what we're going to do is we're just going to thread this thread through one of our crystals at the point. Now this can be a wee bit tricky because we've not got a needle to help us here, but it should be totally fine because the thread's fairly stiff. So I'm just gonna, I've said that now and I'm not gonna be able to get it through, am I? So it can take just a wee bit of cajoling, a wee bit of coaxing, but that is just through there like that. and then just tie this off as long as you want it. You know, if you want it kind of just very short hanging on a tree, or if you're wanting it longer kind of hanging down from a window, maybe you're going to make a couple of them and hang them all down, or you can just quite simply attach this onto a gift bag or a ribbon or something like that, and then that's you done. So thank you for watching. I hope that all made sense. If you do have any problems with any of it, then please do get in touch. Our contact details can be found at the bottom of the instruction sheet just here, which should come with your kits. We obviously made them in the polished silver today, but we do also have it in the frosted gold, which I think is potentially my favourite, but I switch every day. We have lots more kits available online, and we've got a lot of resources on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks so much. Thank you.